It's okay, I mean.
saying it's
I want to use the gavel, so I'm not going to. I'd like to call to order this regular board meeting of the Saugatuck Township Board on Wednesday, September 14, 2022 at 6 p.m. Please join me. Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
Aldrich. Here. Bigford. Here. Umrick.
Here.
Marcy.
Here.
Israel's.
Here.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item number 3 on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Anyone like to move to approve the agenda?
I'll move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
I have motion and support. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approval of the agenda passes 5-0. At this time, I will open up the floor for public comments. Just a reminder, individuals have a 3-minute time limit, and those speaking on behalf of a group have a 5-minute time limit.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Capitra.
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Just to give you just some issues we're dealing with. Obviously, you're going through your budget, so are we. And I'd really recommend if you're going, man, I'd love to see what's all there. Go to ellencounty.org. You can just see on our dashboard, it will talk about our audit. We have the highest rating. It'll give you the budget that we have. It's so many pages, but if you're into that, you'd go, wow, we can see how you function within it. Then our policies are in it. But just to give you, like our last meeting, we're going through 12 different unions, what we're going to do, try to look out 5 years. So we're trying to do all that, but within that is always fiscal responsibility of, let me see our pension bond, if we can pay that off early. Oh, we are paying it off early, we'll save $1.3 million. We're gonna move the jail up, pay it off, I think it's like 8 years early, in 2028, we'll save this much money. We're always focused that way. And if you look at ellencounty.org, look at the dashboard and you go, oh, these guys are being fiscally responsible, just for the accountability of that. Also, I had an interesting meeting last week. There's a gal by the name of Helen Zurup. I don't know if you've heard of her name, but she owns Teddy's Transport. And we met with Mark Whitty from CMH. We met with Scott Corbin, who's our emergency management director, but he's part of that ward of that area. And then we had another subject person from the Habitat for Humanity, and they were all experts within the homeless. And then she set her vision out to us. She's going, I wake up at night going, what do people do when it gets so cold and they're sitting out and they're out in the woods or something? And she just has a heart for it. When she met with Mary Whitford was able to get her $1.2 million.
Wow.
So I don't know if you're familiar with the old Rock Island on M40. Did you ever eat there?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know where it is. So they ended up buying the rock. She did. And they're going to make it for homeless teens. And she gave us the stats of all those that come out of foster care at 18. There's a huge percentage. It was so great that just are homeless. And then she described just in the Holland area that identified over 300 people that are homeless. So anyway, they're going to have that for 18 boys at the Rock. And then the next day she was going to Fenville to look at a bed and breakfast for girls. Because she has to find a place. I don't think you have an area here and you go, wow, there's a perfect place for her. But I know she has extra funds to look at something for homeless teens. And then she's looking for a shelter because that's her passion. And she was seeking the advice of everyone there going, wait a minute, you're involved in this. How can we work on this together? And but she is a dynamo she gets it done. I'm so impressed with her as far as what she's done, how she's got there. But you could just see the heart that she has for it. And I know it's the talk of all the boards going, what can we do better? How can we partner with people? It's Helen Zurup. She owns Teddy's Transport. Teddy's are just It's ZURIP,
Okay.
which is zero.
Yeah, I'd like to
And
check
then-
into her.
Teddy's Transport, they own it.
Okay.
Also, I just want to mention too, this facilities master plan, I mentioned to probably months ago, but I'm a little bit disappointed in Bob. In that he's gone around and he's gone, wow, we're gonna have to move out to Dumont Lake. Dumont Lake is 3 miles away. And I'm friends with Bob. He's done an incredible job as a clerk. And what's happened is that within being the third fastest growing county in the state of Michigan, we have 100 cases we're behind in jury trials. The courts are flooded with people. And if you talk to March Baker, talk to what's there, the state has looked at it and said, you're approved for a new circuit court room. That means judges' chambers, a room for your jury trials, a room for witnesses, and a district court. So we're going, we don't have the space for it. What are we gonna do? We looked at this before to add on to what we're looking at. It's a $40 to $60 million project. Well, it just so happens that CMH moved out, as I've told you before, and they occupy about 10,000 square feet. Non-court services, about 6,000 square feet. So we're going, this is a perfect thing to do. So I just want you to know that if you hear something negative about it and go, what are these guys doing moving them out? We first think it's fiscally sound. And then a lot of people like from here would go to Allegan for the clerk. They go through security. They go, where is this place? Here, you're gonna be able to go to one window, go to the drain commissioner, go to the clerk, go to the treasurer and get help. And instead of us going, hey, we're just moving out there, we hired an engineer to go, how can we make this best? How can we make this even better than what you had? So just so you know, our attitude in moving people isn't like, you're gonna do this. We're going, let's make this the best it can be. And we'd be all for that as far as just walking with them to go, how can we make this even better? It's not the opposite where you're gonna do this, you're gonna be here. It's just the opposite of, wait a minute, we got more room. How can we make this more efficient to make it easier for the people of the county that we're responsible for? Just make sure you know that. And then just lastly, again, I was just thrilled as I could be with the water project. And again, thanks for all your work on that. And to think of the county can partner with you with that. It's pretty cool. Have a great meeting.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you bet.
So with this move, are you going to move all the county services to Dumont Lake?
Just non-court. So like with the
Okay,
clerk,
so treasurer and all
Okay.
that.
so
So they'll all be in one spot.
yeah,
And then, how does that affect us? Is that part of where we take our ballots now? Will
well,
we be
it's up to
going
Bob. So
there?
currently you take your ballots to the court.
Right.
I know our county administrator had a conversation with Bob today going, Bob, you're responsible for that. If you find it's better to do this at Dumont or the court, you can do that.
Okay,
Because Bob still has responsibility with court functions as a clerk.
sure.
So he's gonna still keep that. So if he goes, hey, I'm gonna do elections at the court because it's easier for my clerks,
Okay,
then that will happen. But if he goes, hey, wait a minute, it's so efficient at Dumont, they have it set up for us safely, we can do it here, it'll be that way. But it's his call.
okay, good, because there's a lot of lighting there when you travel there at night, which is nice. So hopefully he selects that.
You bet, very good. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Here.
I want to ask who wants to say anything.
All right, let's close the public comment. And
We do have some people on Zoom.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
All right, great.
You can they can hear us.
Okay.
Scott Waranga, did you want to make any public comment?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we have a Joe, I can't read the last name. What is it? Novakowski. Joe, would you like to make any public comment?
He's one of the candidates.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Oh, thank you for that, Daniel.
No problem.
Okay, so moving on to item number 5, consent agenda. I trust that you've all had a chance to look over the items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions? Comments on that?
No, the only thing that stood out, and Daniel answered the question, was the 135,000 to Redline.
I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I motion to approve the consent agenda. I'll support that.
We have motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right. There was a correspondence from the League of Women Voters, Holland area. Any comments on that? Have you all had a chance to read that, or should we review it?
I thought maybe someone would be here tonight. So I've never seen them do that, so I think it's pretty, I like that.
Okay. Just take any action on that. There are no presentations tonight. So moving on to new business. The first item is board and commission appointments. What page? Does anyone have the page?
33.
Oh, yeah, you got it, yeah. He's the star student.
Would you like me to introduce
Yeah.
that Supervisor
Yes.
Bigford? Okay, so the township has 2 appointments to make on the Board of Review. There's 1 vacancy for a full member, and 1 vacancy for an alternate that's been vacant for some time. We haven't filled that just yet. Both terms expire December 31st, 2022. That's required by the state. And at this time, the board has received applications from the following applicants for appointment for either full member or alternate. 1 is from Cindy Osmond. We have Joe Novakowski, Ed Welk. Nick Capoletti has withdrawn his application for Board of Review, but has maintained his application for Planning Commissioner. I did get notification from Cindy Osmond that she's unable to make it this evening, but she did want to convey to you all that she does live here full time. She's not a snowbird, and she would be able to make all of the scheduled meetings for Board of Review. And it does look like we have Joe Novakowski on Zoom and Ed Welk in the audience.
Okay.
So if you have any questions for any of the candidates, here's your opportunity.
Well, it's been our practice in the past to invite the applicants up to the podium and kind of give a little bit of information about themselves and their interest in the position. So let's start with you, Mr. Welk. Would you like to come up and
Sure.
pass a little information?
My name is Edward Welk, and I've lived here for 16 years now. We live on Lakeshore Drive, north of M89. And I did spend 10 years on the Planning Commission previously. I have a bachelor's degree from Boston University, a master's from the University of Illinois. I ran my own business for 15 years. Prior to that, I was with Illinois government for 25 years. In all the financial side of things, I was a deputy director of the Department of Revenue, first 4 years. I was the president of the school board for 14 of 16 years. So I do have, and that's an elected position, so I do have a lot of experience on boards in governmental entities and so on. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Good, because that's the next step.
Okay.
I'll start with John because he usually has.
Oh,
Yeah.
I apologize. I wasn't thinking that much about border review type questions. Well, I guess, I don't know if, are you aware that the state recently changed the rules relative to granting primary residence exemptions, homesteading to people? That used to only happen at one of the 3 border review meetings. And that was a lot of their agenda and workloads. But now the assessor can make those determinations all the time.
Okay. No, I was not aware.
And I applaud it. It's made life a lot easier because often there's new tax bills that have to be issued, and rather than waiting to
Right.
July, December and the March, I think it's a positive thing for taxpayers, but
Well, for the township.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't have any specific questions on the other items that board of review deals with, so.
How many times a year does this meet? And don't you go to Florida a lot or?
Well,
Or is that, would that interfere
We
at all?
ask everyone that question.
No,
Or,
It's July, December and March.
oh, so you'd be able to do all those
and again,
reviews?
I mean, there's an airplane right there.
Okay, I mean, you're willing to do that if you.
Yeah, if I was appointed and that was part of it, yes, I would do
Okay,
that.
great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to share with you that that December meeting is probably less than an hour. And for you to fly back for is not something I would strongly recommend, but it's quick.
I may not be gone then.
That's true too.
Right.
Okay. Well, that was the only thing. The only other thing I wanted to have the opportunity to say to you is thank you for all your work on the planning commission. I know you weren't at the last meeting that we publicly thanked you, but I do remember sending a thank you card, and 10 years is a
Yes.
long time to serve on that commission. And
No.
so I just want to be able to say in person, thank you.
You're very welcome. We did some good things and one or two that I questioned myself that I voted yes on, so.
Oh.
But
Yep, good thing to evaluate, right? Brenda, did you have any
No.
questions?
The winter question.
Okay. I have a question, it probably, because you applied for this and for planning commissions, this probably covers both. So you've taken a bit of a break from, being on a township board for a period of time now. What has rekindled your interest in serving again, or was it, and if that's a personal question, you don't need to answer that.
no,
either.
boredom.
You miss us, huh?
No, I can't, I have to stay busy. And my interests have been for many, many years on the governmental side. And
Right.
so the township had some openings and said, put my name in again and see what happens.
Fair enough, that makes. All right, okay, well, if there's no other questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you want to have a seat, we're gonna talk to the person that we have on Zoom next.
Sounds fine.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have Mr. Novakowski on Zoom, correct?
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Novakowski, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your interest in Board of Review?
sure. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I had childcare issues tonight, so I needed to be close to home, but yeah, lived in Saugatuck in the township since 2009, bought property before that, before we built, but background is all in engineering and construction. So a bachelor's degree from Michigan Tech and then a master's in finance from Grand Valley. Been at the same company since 1995 out of Holland, EV construction. Probably got initially interested in serving on the township during election a few years ago where the board turned over and was approached by some of that effort and considered it. Didn't think that was the right fit at the time, and without thought this was, but that really piqued my interest in getting involved more with my where I live versus a lot of stuff that I do is up in Holland. That piqued my interest for that, and this seems like a better fit for me for my experience and what with 5 kids and a full-time job, still having the time to meet, but not taking the monthly meetings like all you folks give to serve us all.
Okay, thank you for that. Start with on the other side of the table with questions. Stacy, do you have any for?
No, I can't think of anything right now, actually. I'm sorry. The only thing I can think of is, again, the wintering question, if you're around, what is it now, December and March?
I'm one of those weird people that enjoys winter, so I stay here.
Me too. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. I
Plus
do too.
those 5 kids can be a bit of a burden.
Yeah.
Becky, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there training involved in this?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
What
what
it-
that requirement was.
What are the training requirements? I always ask Cindy when she's here, but.
It's usually, you can do it online now, it's 6 hours, I think. And you take a little test along with it, and then you get certified, and it's every 2 years.
Oh,
Is the expectation. Does that sound right? Cause you were looking at me like.
Oh, I'm just looking at you because I think you know more about the board already than I do.
So would that training requirement that she described at about 6 hours every 2 years be doable for you?
Oh, yeah, definitely, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
I think you can do it on your time too, so you can do it in the evening or whatever. They used to do it in person. And that was a little more fun, because people asked a lot of really good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my cover letter, I was talking about some of the, I hold a lot of our licenses for our national work, and some of the states require continuing education, so I'm very used to the online, 8 hours or 16 hours of continuing ed.
Okay.
Okay, good. Any other questions for Mr. Robakowski? No?
I have a question, I guess, for
Sure.
us or one of you. Now, can you just remind me right now, who are the existing members of the board of review?
So much change.
Because it's 3?
Yes. It's Lisa Smith.
Right.
and
Okay,
Cindy
that's what I
Smith.
thought.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's 3
And-
total, added up to.
And I was the third person and had to come on with this position.
Got it. No, but I associate you with board of review.
Yeah,
so-
and we recognized as a group that we needed an alternate.
Yeah.
Because if someone doesn't come, you're voting as 2 people, and that could be kind of
Right.
potentially.
And I know
not very good.
That was an
Yeah.
issue somewhat over the last 2 years. so
Yes,
That's,
it
that
was, so
that makes sense.
that's why we added the alternate position.
Sickness or.
That's good.
Yeah, or COVID
Yeah,
could be
right.
an issue, for someone not to meet, so. And we do meet in person. Just so you all know that, okay.
And the structure of the meetings, there's usually an agenda of applicants up in advance, but people can just show up too, correct?
They can, yes. But usually, people request a time ahead of time, and then they work with our assessor, or Lori will schedule that. Now, our supervisors at these meetings too. And the responsibility of the supervisor is to take minutes, which it's very easily structured, and it's really nice when people come in. We don't have a lot of people that come in. A lot of the stuff that comes before us are primary resident exemptions or, questions. Sometimes there's errors made in tax assessments, and so they'll pick up on that and they'll come in. So it's a real nice, gracious meeting, I will say, and we have a nice time doing it.
And then you said the supervisor always attends.
Supervisor always
Whether
attends
they're-
as a non-voting member.
Okay, would I be required to do that or recommended to do the training as well?
I think that you do have to,
Okay.
yes.
I need to make a note of that. Okay.
And I'm not sure if it's 6 hours or 4 hours. We can, whoever is put on this, we'll look that up tomorrow and make
Okay.
sure. It's interesting training though, and they give you a nice booklet.
All right, thank you for that,
Mhm.
Becky. Okay, so just to review, we do have a full-time member and an alternate. So, are there any other things that we want to discuss regarding this? Or questions that we have for our applicants that have come up?
Well, yeah, I have a question for Joe. Joe, it's nice to see you again. Have you ever appeared at a board review meeting on your own behalf, or are you very familiar with their purpose?
I understand the purpose, but I honestly have not been to a meeting. But I review my tax bill very closely, but
Right.
I've met with the drain commissioner on some of those assessments, but that's a whole different thing.
Right, yeah, that's different, okay.
Can I just? Can I move on to one item with Cindy Osmond,
Hmm,
who's not here this evening, but, I want to just mention that I have been on the Board of Review, I think, 3 years. And I've worked with Cindy on the Board of Review, and she was the supervisor. And I'd just like to strongly say that Cindy's so familiar with the process and has worked hard on the Board of Review, and so I was very pleased to see her application too. So I just wanted to mention that.
Noting.
Okay.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve Cindy Osmond to the Board of Review as a full member to expire December 31st, 2022.
I'll support.
I have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now that brings us to the alternate member position. And again, I entertain a motion for that.
Go ahead.
I'd like, sorry to get your attention. I'd like to, excuse me, I'd like to move to approve the appointment of Joe Novakoski to the Board of Review as an alternate member to expire December 31st, 2022.
I will support that.
And we have motion and support. Any further discussion on the appointment or the motion to appoint Joe Novakoski? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Can I just make one comment?
Absolutely.
And thank you. And there'll be more opportunities to keep your eye on us in terms of, I didn't know, was he also not an applicant?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, so just wanted to, but sorry.
You're welcome.
And we always do tell people that there are other opportunities and things will come up, so.
And even ask our manager, DeFranco, about applying to boards and how long it sometimes takes.
Yes, it's taken a long time.
And now you're
Yes.
here.
Yes, so people only try once, but it's good to try again.
More often than not, I think people try again, and it's really nice to have
Right.
people want to serve.
Yes, it shows their stick to it, yes, right?
And Joe, we'll get back to you tomorrow about the training. And can I just email you?
Yep,
Yes,
that would be
please.
great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to the opportunity.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to under new business 1B, the planning commission. Portal appointment. Daniel, would you please lead us into that discussion?
My pleasure. So the township has one appointment to make to planning commission. We do have a vacancy, which is a resignation of Becky Israels, who was once the planning commission chair. Well, I was on planning commission. So we do have a vacancy now for that. So it's to fill a term that's going to expire on June 2024. We have received application materials from quite a few people. Gordon Stannis, Richard Boskin, Ed Welp, and Nick Capoletti. I got notice from Gordon Stannis and from Nick Capoletti ahead of time that they would be out of town and there was no way that they could make the meeting. But both of them did send pretty detailed cover letters to be attached to their applications. We I don't know if I know that Mr. Capoletti's cover letter didn't make the official packet, but it should be with your materials. And this is going to be a roll call vote, and the supervisor will make the nomination.
I do have a letter of support that didn't get in the packet, it came to me directly. Should I read it for one of the candidates? Or
Can you tell me who wrote the support letter?
a member, Jackie Brown,
Okay, yes.
a member, I'm sorry, I should have said that, a member of the
And it's in support of which candidate?
Gordon Stannis,
Well,
Usually we just,
just mention it.
you have
Okay,
a supporting letter from a member of the
Okay.
planning commission. Is that-
I don't know that we've had this happen so much. I know like when Phyllis,
right,
yeah, am I saying her?
I think
last
it's
name?
you.
Yep,
It's you,
Yeah.
it's you.
I don't know,
And
did
it was
we
in the
read it in the packets? We
It's
haven't
better
read
that
it.
it's-
okay,
Yeah.
okay, and I'll make sure you all get this regardless of.
I actually would like you to read it when we come to that,
Okay,
because we didn't get to see it prior to making
all
a
right.
decision. I think when we have a letter from somebody that's on that
Mhm.
board or commission, we take it pretty seriously, so at least that's been my experience in the past.
yeah, it just came to me
I would like to
because she
hear
was
that.
indisposed, she's been.
All right, well, let's just go in order of
Okay.
the applicants as they're listed here then. So Gordon Stannis would be first. We've all had a chance to look over his application and his cover letter. Can you go ahead, Brenda, and please,
Yes, some of this might be a little repetitive, but not all of it. All right, so we all know due to a prior commitment, he's unable to be present. Gordon is a longtime member of our community. In fact, their children grew up together. He was managing director of design and technology at Twist Think, a digital strategy solution firm, until the firm was sold to its employees. He's currently managing partner at Twist Health, a health and self-care consortium. Gordon has served as trustee on the Saugatuck School Board and also led a research project at the high school, identifying needs and priorities of the school with its students and parents, providing design input for its renovation. He also works with Rotary Club of Saugatuck Douglas, organizing and fundraising for the Mount Baldhead Challenge each year, proceeds from which benefit the Boys and Girls Club. As a current member of the Planning Commission, I believe Gordon would be a great addition, providing balance, insight, and professionalism, all from a solution-oriented point of view. His intentions would be nothing but the best for the community. Sincerely, Jackie Brown.
and I would like to note as well, on the subject of Mr. Stannis, he has applied previously. And he has interviewed here with us, so we have heard from him and we have had that chance to ask him the questions that we wanted to, not so long ago, after he was here, so. Okay, anything else on Mr. Stannis?
I can say one thing. I mean, I'm very familiar with working with Twist Think. And way back, yes, and this was an amazing organization before it became Twist Health. He did some stuff for us at Rest Haven and worked with groups, and so it was very interesting, and honestly, I like the way they think and they pull it out of you. And so I think his background is really impressive, different, but very good for the planning commission, and that's what I would say, besides having known him for a long time.
Our next applicant is here, Mr. Watkins. Could you please come up to the podium and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your interest in being on the planning commission?
Thank you. I think most of you know me, Dick Waskin. I'm the broker owner, excuse me, of Remax Saugatuck Douglas. I am a full-time resident here, have been for over 35 years. Currently, I am on the Lake Kalamazoo Harbor Authority as a representative for the township, and I have been enjoying that thoroughly. It's a great little board to be on. In fact, one of those issues is before you tonight to vote on supporting the navigational lights that are on the Blue Star Bridge. And we all, both the tri-community, all support that idea, and I'm sure you will too. As far as my interest, obviously, as a realtor, I cross paths with planning commissions, both here, with Saugatuck City, with the Village of Douglas, City of the Village of Douglas. And I have been for 35 years. I've helped navigate about 20 developments from their start to finish to being sold here in the community, and working with the planning commissions, because it's never you come to one meeting and you're approved. It's you're going to go through a process. It's going to be a big process, and it's a process that hopefully always turns out for the betterment of that development. And I think the ones I've been part of, I'm very proud of how they've turned out. I also think, because it's been 35 years that I've been involved in these things, that there's a sense of history about it. That I think it's good to have some continuity, that somebody knows what's happened in the past and what either worked or didn't work, or what was approved and maybe people forgot there were certain requirements attached to that approval, and they sometimes fall by the wayside. So I think it's real, that's a real important thing, is to have a sense of history of what's happened in the past as far as planning and the development of the also, I feel that my personal feelings about planning is that zoning should be crystal clear, that as rules are written, that they're easily understood, that people know, yes, I can do this, no, I can't do this. Because so many of the problems that crop up is if there's gray areas that are in there, and then people attempt to do something and then they're told they can or they can't, and they weren't sure if they could or couldn't. And then worst case scenario, we end up in lawsuits, and that's nothing anybody wants to see happen. So I also believe that you have to be very impartial when you sit on the planning commission, that I don't care if you're Mother Teresa or you're Attila the Hun, you both have to be treated the same way. And I think that's very important as people approach, their approvals, approach what they're seeking from the planning commission. So I would probably adhere to that very strictly in my decision making. The planning commission has quite often in the past had a realtor sit on the planning commission because that person has been on the other side of the table. I've been there a lot. And it's sometimes good to understand what the applicant is trying to do, and being empathetic towards that applicant, and being as fair as you can towards that applicant. So I appreciate your consideration. Of come before you once before, I'm trying again. But I would very much approve your consideration of my application.
Thank you.
Brenda, you look like you might have a question.
Well, I just had the same one, but I think you already know the answer. The winter,
I am a full-time resident, yes.
yes, I mean, you're here usually, yeah.
No, I may take a week here or there.
Oh.
It's not the fourth Monday.
Yeah, I thought you had answered that, of course.
Other questions?
Go ahead.
I always have a comment. Sorry, I really liked how you explained, your feelings about the planning commission and what things should be done. I'm just curious, what other boards or commissions are you on or have you been on?
I have been on, I was on the in Douglas, the Douglas Downtown Authority. I've been on that
The
for
DDA.
the DDA for many years, because we own commercial property down there, and so sat on the DDA, and we actually were responsible for establishing the TIF that the city of Douglas now has,
Okay.
and ushered through the whole project of the rebuild of Center Street, the downtown, and the cityscape that resulted as of that. So that's probably one. I've sat on that for many years. And of course, like I said, I'm on the Harbor Authority
Right,
currently right now as well.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for applying again. We said it's good to apply more than once. And also I want to thank you for your service along with Holly Engel.
She's wonderful.
We've been very.
Yeah,
pleased.
she's wonderful.
Very pleased with our appointments now that we're a full voting member of the Harbor Authority. So thank you for all that. Well, I have two questions. One, because you mentioned, and I kind of forgot about all this history. Do you still own the property on Center Street in Douglas?
We do not.
You do not. Okay. So you can.
So I can't.
You can help me with,
I
why
can't
is
be
it
on the
still
DDA
vacant?
anymore, right.
It's the cornerstone of the city, so, all right, well, you don't have to answer that. What I wanted to ask the applicants tonight, I think you probably have heard that we're doing an entire ordinance review with a consultant, and that came out of the work. We had 3 advisory committees that met for, I think, 14 months every month. I was proud to be the chair of the economic development one. So I'm just curious, what comes to your mind in terms of commercial or type of business you would most like to see in the township, perhaps on Blue Star Highway or along M89? We're looking at expanding the commercial area there from where the Michigan Winery is and Whatnot restaurants.
Well, I think currently we probably have enough marijuana places to encourage more.
That's what you don't want.
Just kidding. But, you know, I'm a big fan of integrating commercial properties with residential properties. I think, and most planners will say this, that it was a mistake to zone commercial here, to zone that, because you're not creating neighborhoods. And I think it's really important that, you know, you would have like your grocery store in a neighborhood, your, you know, convenience store, whatever it might be, that people need to go to. I mean, we do have gas stations where they need to be probably, so we don't need
We're well served by gasoline.
Yes, we are.
Not so much EV.
Right.
True, and that's actually gonna be a thing that we have to consider.
That's on our radar.
Yeah, to see and there's money for that now, that the federal government is putting out there. So I think we could probably certainly focus on that and spearhead that, because it's where everything is going now, is towards electric. So that would be a good.
So do you have a blue sky dream type of business you'd like to see here?
That's a good question. I really don't, other than probably another good grocery store.
Okay, thank you.
Did anyone else have questions? Stacy, no, we've got it covered. I think I've had all my questions have been addressed. So thank you, Dick.
Thank you.
You'll see. And Mr. Welk, did you want to come back up to talk about PC? Or, I mean, you kind of gave us your background. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Welk regarding PC specifically?
No, I like some of the questions that.
Yeah, I'd like to ask.
John asked.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that question.
Okay.
Come on
Yeah.
up, Ed. Had the pleasure of serving on the PC along with Ed for a while, so. Thank you for coming back.
Oh, sure.
No, that's neat. No, so it's the same question. I mean, you were on the PC for years and now we're we're trying to increase business development. We're very proud of the fact that in the last 3 years or so, we've got the miniature golf, Penny Royal Restaurant. There's potentially a new brewery coming on Blue Star. And yes, there are some marijuana retail stores from which we are profiting very nicely with the revenue sharing. So what would be on your wish list? What kind of business would you like to see come into the township that maybe isn't here now?
One thing that I think that we really need and should really look at is affordable housing. I mean, you can't bring people in and say, well, here's a $250,000 home and you make, 40 grand a year. And I know there's been committee after committee after committee. We've looked at little housing, the miniature stuff and things like that. And it never seems to go anywhere. And as far as new businesses, I was told a couple of days ago that Isabel's gonna close now for the winter, for the fall and the spring or whatever. And it's a regional area like this where you don't have year-round type of activities, except for several that are well established. Some of the restaurants are well established and they do okay. A couple of the stores in town do okay in Douglas and in Saugatuck and in the township. But saying that someone will come here and you can have a business for 3 months, it just doesn't work that way. And, you know, I was talking to my wife about opening a chili place. Because that would be good summer, winter, tourists, non-tourists, et cetera, et cetera. And I have several friends that own a couple in Illinois, and so we've been talking. We haven't gone anywhere to put any money down yet, but restaurants seem to be something that if you can get the people coming back and back and back, it's one thing, as the Butler does, and as the Mexican restaurant does, and as the Whatnot does, as Phil's and so on. That's great, but you just can't open one and expect it to succeed because it just doesn't happen that way. And it's the same thing with clothing stores or with record stores or with the knickknacks, on and on. And yeah, another grocery store. Well, we've got Fenville with a grocery store. We've got Douglas with the grocery store. We have South Haven with a grocery store. We have Holland with several grocery stores and so on. I don't like to drive 12, 15 miles every time I have to go to the grocery store or get a prescription at Walgreens, but I do. And so to say, I don't know, John. If I, had the magic ball and could say.
Just asking for your
Yeah,
grade.
no,
That's okay.
I'm just saying, it's very hard. And when we were on when I was on the planning commission, we looked at a lot of things. And some of them, well, they were great ideas, but they just couldn't conform to the rules and the regulations and the zoning, et cetera, that the township had. And so we were the bad guys, they were the good guys. And I remember when we had to do that sand pit on the east side of town, that got very contentious. And that was a hard vote. But at the time, the chairman said, the law is the law. We pass it because they met all the requirements or we get sued. And we'd been through enough litigation. I got on right when the Denison's thing was falling apart, or it had fallen apart and the court was starting to control it. And the last thing you want is a court to start controlling your zoning or anything else. So, if somebody brings forth a good idea, I'm the first one to say, let's see what we can do for them. And Lene started doing a great job. For a long time, we had little to no enforcement. I don't know what the enforcement is today. I understand it's much better, but
it's really kicked up.
Yeah, and it's all those kinds of things that if people know what the rules are, what the regulations are, and in many cases, you'd say, what do you want? Well, what do the locals want? What are they building?
Right.
They're not building anything, or they're not doing it much, or whatever. I mean, Isabel, I thought was a great idea, great place. They got all kinds of good stuff in there, but they're just not making it as a restaurant. And that's just too bad. So that's just a hard one. I don't have a crystal ball.
Well, I like your chili idea.
Mhm.
And we only have 3 restaurants in the township
know.
itself, so keep thinking about that.
Mhm.
And was it that when I came on the planning commission, there were 2 people on Lakeshore Drive on the planning commission, Bill Rowe and myself. Today, there's nobody on the Lakeshore Drive or in that area at all on the planning commission or in Saugatuck government that I'm aware of. So it's just, and you know, when the Dollar General was going on, there was a lot of meetings on that, and well, I won't say a lot, but maybe 10 or 15, and you know, it was, oh, no, we can't do it, and there was 100 reasons why,
I
and
mean, the current one.
pardon?
You mean the existing one?
No, the one that they want.
Oh, you mean the Lake Shore Association?
Right, I was.
Yeah,
Right, it's like, wait.
yeah, I'm on
Yeah.
that board too, Jack.
No, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but again, you know, they were gonna go to whatever and they had to stop it. And apparently the Dollar General people just felt it wasn't
They
worth it.
pulled out.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you. All good thoughts.
all right. Anything else?
No other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Hey. I don't envy your position.
No, so let's,
Yeah, I wish we
and
had.
Mr. Capoletti, did we have any comments or,
Is he on?
he's not on Zoom, correct?
No, he's traveling.
Okay,
I just wanted to say, I mean, again, and this has happened before for us.
Yeah.
I think we're really lucky to get, you know, this number and quality of
Quality,
applicants. You know, we've met and know Gordon, we know Dick very well, we know Ed very well. A lot of us know Nick, not from applications. He's thought about it before, but we know the incredible job he's done with the Capizzo Studio on Blue Star. I don't know if you've seen the new mural that went up recently. I mean,
Yeah, I
it
did see
just
that.
gets better every day.
It's
And he's
beautiful.
very, you
Yeah.
know, involved and active. And, you know, it's a shame we can't interview him today. But as I said, I think a lot of us know him. And I'm just very pleased and impressed that we've got 4 great candidates.
Yeah, I would agree with that, John. It's too bad we don't have alternate positions.
Right.
Maybe we should.
It's, you know, I remember one meeting where it was very close, we only had 3 people and
Yeah.
1 minute to 6, somebody finally came in the door.
I wasn't there, but I remember that.
Yes, you weren't there. You weren't there. I was a little afraid it wouldn't happen, but yeah, I think we're lucky to have 4 very qualified people.
I think trustee Marcy calls it our champagne problem,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, champagne problems.
Problems, yes. And at my first meeting, a full meeting as supervisor, I get to do this,
Yeah.
like probably least favorite thing
To make it
That's-
selection.
to make a
Exciting for you.
selection of people that we want to include everyone, especially when we have such great applicants. But I would like to appoint Mr. Gordon Stannis to the Planning Commission to for a term to expire June 30, 2024.
I would support that.
So I made the appointment, the sample motions in here. If you want
Oh,
to read.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't
It's
know that
always
was that.
tricky,
Okay.
even though we do it now and again.
Oh, wait, don't you do the appointment?
Yes, you do.
I make the appointment, then you guys
But
have
then
to
It's
approve.
gotta be
it.
supported and then a motion.
Oh, both, okay,
Mhm.
that's right, every time,
It's okay.
I have to relearn. how
It's
to
only
do
with the
this one.
planning.
I know.
So I say that. I move to,
Yes.
is that it? Okay.
Yes.
I move to approve the appointment of Gordon Stannis to the Planning Commission to expire June 30th, 2024.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there support?
I will support that.
I have a motion and support, and this is, oh, is there further discussion? No, again, thank you so much. This is a very difficult thing.
It really is.
This particular one has been even more so with such great applicants, and we hope to see you back.
We're very grateful that you came in this evening too, that really was very helpful.
And
Yes.
even,
And I'm really impressed by both of you, I have to say, you know,
I am too.
yeah, it's all of the candidates are so good this time.
I do think we should think about an alternate position on that board, even though it would probably never use.
And Mike,
Well,
what
there's
time?
apps, I mean, we should talk to the Michigan Association of Planning
And see
and
if.
see if the enabling,
viable.
allows for that or not.
Sure.
Maybe it doesn't, and maybe it does, and we didn't have it available. So
Okay,
Okay. Further discussion? All right, this is the roll call vote. Aldrich,
Yes.
Israels,
yes.
Hummer,
yes,
Bigford, yes, Marcy,
Yes,
motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to personal policy update, item number 2 under new business. Here's the now. And this is just a pretty easy fix. I think it makes a lot of sense to
Yeah.
move that from
Yeah.
quarterly or from annually to quarterly, but Dan, you're gonna give us any further information in this item?
Yeah, I believe that this is probably something that's been talked about for quite some time, even prior to me coming on and. A change hasn't been made. Recently, we had some switch up in our employment, and we had somebody leave and we had a new person come on, which is fantastic. But that results in, if somebody leaves at the very beginning of the fiscal year, they might leave July 2nd. With the current HSA policy, we'd have to pay out the entire HSA contribution to that employee, and the township would not be able to collect any of that back. So the recommendation is just to kind of stagger that contribution over the course of a year quarterly, so that if we were to lose any employees, whether they, leave on their own or whatever reason, we wouldn't be on the hook for the entire contribution, plus having to pay for another contribution if we were to replace that employee. So that's kind of the rationale behind it.
so as it currently, because we haven't changed anything yet. In the situation that we just went through, where someone left a week after they received it. Is the new employee get it this year, or do they have to wait till next year?
So there's 2 new employees, both get the HSA contribution, both are prorated based on when their hire date was. For one employee, the policy was not changed and they're going to go under the old policy. For the second employee, part of the hiring offer was specifying that the HSA contribution would be paid out quarterly.
Okay,
But this codifies it.
right,
going
so right now,
forward.
one employee's on the quarterly plan.
Yes.
Can I make a motion?
Absolutely.
I'll move to approve the adoption of the updated personnel policy handbook as presented.
We have a motion, is there support?
I'll support.
We have motion and support, is there any further discussion?
I'm just gonna make a quick
Yes,
comment,
go ahead.
and Daniel and I have already spoken about it, and it'll be handled in the future, but on page 51. Under lower on the page,
Mhm.
there's language in our policy about vision and dental. Which is inaccurate because we've had dental now for over a year. And the vision is a stipend and it's 400, right?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
So we'll have to vote on that. Right,
Next.
subsequently.
All right, well, we have a motion and support. Any other comments on this? Any other discussion?
I have a comment that. I feel like I'm always commenting, but. As we do this, if we have employees that are reaching, because we have a small insurance plan, we're considered a small insurance plan. Because we have under 10 employees, actual employees, it doesn't go out to spouses and everything, but. The government says small insurance plan if you have under 10 people. If you have someone that's turning, now that we've changed this policy, someone that's turning 65. In the terms of their employment. You have to stop paying the HSA 6 months prior. To that time. I don't know if you know that, but that's an IRS law. And so once you reach, and then if, because we have the small insurance group program too, once you are 65, you automatically must take Medicare if you're in this type of situation. So unfortunately, like if somebody is on Medicare or at that age, they don't have the option of staying with our program, which sometimes people think they can. I mean, we always could in a larger organization, and that, I mean, there's benefits to both, but I'm just kind of telling you down the road, do we need to include that in the policy? Or do we just know that that's an IRS law, federal law?
Well, I think that's what we just went through with me.
Well, no, I'm
No,
not,
she means.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about in the future, anyone that might be an employee that might turn 65, and now that we're on this quarterly payment system, we have to be aware that it has to stop 6 months prior to the birthday. That's what I
That's
meant.
different. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what I meant, John.
All right,
I didn't,
but we
And is
did,
it-
we're aware of that law and
right, but I didn't know if we were aware of that 6-month law.
It's a good question. The only thing I think of is, do we always stay, I mean, will we always have 10 employees? So does
Or
it,
under.
or under, so does it, do we put, depending, like in the policy, like contingent upon remaining in a small group? Does that kind of make sense?
Mhm.
If there were ever a time where the organization expanded, where we moved out of a small group policy. So do
Then
we
it would
spec,
change.
then it
and
would
so
change.
Is the assumption that the insurance provider would update us on those laws. That would be my assumption. And we also know that federal laws change annually, so but I just wanted to mention that now.
but it was our insurance agent that informed us that.
It was, she
The
did
Medicare
direct
issue.
us. And but I wanted you to know that. It's a consideration going down. And we want to support our employees.
Yes.
Right, any other comments or? Okay. So let's see here. We had a motion and support, we discussed, so all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries 5-0. That brings us to another policy update, this one on the financial policy. That is, under new business item number 3. Oh, I'm on the wrong page, sorry. And this is regarding the budget monitoring and moving it to quarterly as well. Seems like we've experienced monthly or almost monthly, and we've experienced annually, and none of those seemed like a good fit. So this seems like we're informed, but it's not overkill either. So tell us a little more about this, please.
This is, yeah, so this is a subject that came up when we were doing the budget, because when I started back in January, and then we really got into the budget like February,
yeah,
March,
really
we
soon.
really got into it. And there had not been a budget amendment made up until that point, so we were like, 8 months into the fiscal year, and we ended up having a departmental overage. And the law requires that a budget amendments be made prior to a departmental overage. It doesn't say when amendments have to be made, but it says that the amendment has to be made prior to the overage occurring. So we did have an overage occur prior to the making of an amendment. That may not have happened if, the other manager had continued on, they may have, caught that, they may not have. But I think it raises the point that we should be monitoring the budget for amendments more than once a year, because there's no real good way to satisfy that statutory requirement if you're making amendments annually. And from reading, various literature on budgets and the Michigan Department of Treasury's Uniform Budget Manual, and speaking with our auditor, it seems like best practice for an organization of our size is to review the budget quarterly for possible amendments. That's not to say that every quarter will have an amendment, but we should be reviewing and looking out for possible amendments quarterly. So that's kind of the background.
Any questions for? Okay. Well, I would entertain a motion regarding the update to the financial policy.
I'd like to move to approve the adoption of the updated financial policy handbook as presented tonight.
All right, we have a motion by Hummer and support by Marcy. Any further discussion?
I just want to applaud us for potentially taking this action. Because as Daniel said, we've had the two extremes, and I think quarterly is fiduciarily sound.
Very good.
Yes, that's practice for sure.
Say that one more
And then we're one more early.
Fiduciarily.
I like that.
I don't
Who's got a ring to it?
know. Expialidocious.
That's what I was
Those are counted.
But maybe-
All right.
Only 5 minutes past 7. You can't get.
You can't look
It would be until 10, right?
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any other comments? All right, this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Okay, which brings us to item number 4 under new business, grave repurchase. This happens pretty regularly. It's just a housekeeping thing that we need to approve. But I will let Manager DeFranco fill in any blanks or let us know if there's anything noteworthy about this one.
No, I think that's pretty accurate. It's kind of a house cleaning item. We did get a request from Mr. Yeager to the township to repurchase 2 grave plots that he has. He understands that we will be repurchasing them back for the same price that we sold them to him. So it's a total of $240.
Okay. Any questions? Easy. I'd entertain a motion regarding the grave repurchase.
I move to accept the repurchase of plots 3 and 4 in block 6, section 3, range 24, lot 21 in the Riverside Cemetery at a cost of $240.
There's support.
Support.
I have a motion by Aldrich, support by Israels. Any further discussion about the grave repurchase? This is a voice vote as well. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Next item under new business is Blue Star Highway Navigation Light Project. And I would love to hear all about this. Would you please lead us into this discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. So the navigation light project is something that the Kalamazoo Harbor Authority, which is a tri-community authority, has been working on for quite some time. And I think it's quite important to add navigational lights to the Blue Star Highway Bridge for marine safety. I think the proposal is for solar lights. And we've gotten all 3 communities to kind of come on board and agree to contribute, which is pretty fantastic. Even though we don't own the asset itself because it was being installed on the Blue Star Bridge, we did express fairly early on that we would be willing to financially support the project. We all kind of came to an agreement of a 40-40-20 split, with the township paying 20% of the cost of the installation. Because we don't own the asset, that's why we have the lower percentage, but the Harbor Authority was very happy with our willingness to participate and support the project. And I think that our neighbors in the cities of Douglas and Saugatuck also appreciate the project. I'd also like to note that really the city of Douglas kicked this off. So they have contracted with Gleason Vanderbrink to head up the engineering design of the project. So I want to, acknowledge them and thank them for getting this started. Because it could have very well lingered for a while. But this is the project that's before you. It's really just kind of allowing this to move into the design phase. So the total cost would be $2,800. That's what's being estimated by Gleason Vanderbrink. So our share of that would be $560. We did receive a quote quite back in December for a total cost of the project, and that was including the engineering design. So including the $2,800. The total at that point was $14,372. Fleece and Vanderbrink are pretty confident that that number is going to go up just because the cost of everything is going up and the cost of labor is going up. So we should anticipate that being higher. That being said, the contribution rate has changed slightly. In the beginning, with the $14,000 cost, the township expressed willingness to pay up to $4,000, with the cities each paying $5,000. And we budgeted for that, so that number is in the budget. But now the cities have stepped up and have expressed a willingness to pay up to $7,000 each. So even though the cost is going up, we may very well not have to spend over that $4,000 mark. But this is, again, an approval to enter into that design phase, get all that engineering back work finished, and then get a better idea of what the total cost of the project will be.
What would be the soonest that for installation if all goes as planned?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I imagine it could be as soon as next year. I think it also depends upon, whether or not the municipalities are all willing to support that next phase. But it's got really good momentum at this point. They've been planning it for quite a while. They identified this as really kind of a necessary project, from a safety perspective. I don't think everyone always pays attention to what's going in the Harbor Authority. But I think that we really are starting to pay attention. I've been attending the meetings. The manager of Douglas has been attending all the meetings. He's the one that really got this kicked up. So I imagine it could be as early as next year that the installation could be complete.
Any questions for Manager DeFranco?
Yeah, I have a question on, so this is obviously the design phase.
Mhm,
Since we budgeted and approved up to 4,000,
mhm.
will we have to vote on that again? Or only if they want more?
I imagine we'd have to vote on it either way.
Okay.
So I would say that we prepared for it in the budget, but we haven't necessarily, or the board hasn't necessarily approved that specific design. So it would probably come before you again, just for, you to sign off on. So, yeah, that's how I imagine it would go. They may come back and they may ask for, or it may require an ask of more than 4,000. That would definitely come back before you. But yeah, I guess all I wanted to say is that we did think about it ahead of time, and it was presented to you during the budget planning meeting, where we kind of set that money aside, knowing that that might be an ask, but it may not have been an ask. Right, Douglas has really kind of moved this forward where it's a reality for this coming year, but it would come back before you if it moved out of the design phase.
And at this point, have the two cities approved their design contribution? Or would we be first?
That's a good question. I don't know if they have approved the design phase. I know that we all got this about the same time, which was probably about 2 weeks ago. And I did let them know that we wouldn't be voting on it until September 14th. So they had multiple meetings prior to this. So they may very well have voted on it, but I don't know that. I can find out.
Okay, just curious. I think it's a great project. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, well, in that case, I would Entertain a motion.
I'm happy to move.
Someone's chomping at the bit.
It's harbor authority, come on.
Yeah.
It's close to my heart.
Yeah.
I'd like to move to authorize Police and Vanderbrink to proceed with implementing navigation lighting on the Blue Star Highway Bridge in partnership with the cities of Douglas and Saugatuck.
Motion by Homer, is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Marcy. And this is a roll call vote. Homer,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Israels,
Yes.
Bickford, yes, Aldrich.
Yes.
Motion carried by 0. Brings us to item number 6, drain resolution or elution. A new business. And this is probably ultimately a good thing. It's a little complicated, so if you could lead us through this.
Yeah.
Manager DeFranco, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there are 2 resolutions here to be voted on. So it's a roll call vote. This again came to us last week, but the drain office feels like it's pretty urgent. I'm just gonna read kind of the first part just to get the details out, but the Allegan County Drain Office is requesting the township authorize the expensing of funds for the maintenance and repairs of 2 county drains, the Gudith Drain and the Lakeshore number 2 drain. They're both located in the area of Lakeshore Drive and 126th Avenue. They're fairly close to one another. The Lakeshore number 2 drain is actually located directly below Sundown Park. And was the reason why Sundown Park was closed for so long. That drain sustained significant damage to the point where it failed. And currently all the water that is supposed to be exiting via the Lakeshore number 2 drain is being redirected to the Gudith drain, which also sustained significant damage, but is still functional. It's not the best condition, but it's functional. So per the Michigan Drain Code, the reason why it's kind of coming before you is that the maximum amount that the drain office can expense on physical maintenance activities annually is $5,000 per mile of drain. And the proposed maintenance and repair projects exceed this amount and therefore require authorization via resolution by the local municipality or by a petition process that would be initiated by the drain office themselves. The latter option would involve additional time and expense. So these are projects that the drain office has recognized have to, need to be done. They had to have been done for quite some time now, but because of the high water, they were unable to actually access the site. The sites are very difficult to get to. And we actually had to go down when I visited with Township Engineer Dana Bird and the deputy drain officer. We had to go down a private staircase. There's significant bluff damage along that whole area. There's a lot of hard armoring going on, so seawalls, boulders. So it's a very difficult site to access. You have a very limited amount of time to access that area. The drain office has spent a lot of time trying to coordinate the barge and make sure that they're coordinating with other projects. So it's kind of save some money that they'll be dropping off their materials on the same time that other sites are going to be getting the delivery of materials along the bluff. So that's kind of adding to the expense. Everything has to be brought in by barge because the site is just inaccessible. But just to kind of give you a sense of the costs, they are estimating that the repair to the Gudith drain is going to cost about $60,000. They do have about $37,000 in the maintenance fund, so that will be taken off of that $60,000. But the township will still be assessed for approximately 15% to 20% of the cost of the project. And then the work on the Lakeshore number 2 drain is significantly more. That's $180,000. The township would be assessed for 15% to 20% of the cost of that project. We wouldn't be billed until next fiscal year, so we have plenty of time to prepare for those costs in the budget. And then there's something else that I wanted to let you know. Both projects, though, involve the stabilization of the bluff toe. And so this is good for the bluff itself, this is good for the road above. And it's great for our Sundown Park to stabilize that bluff because it was closed because we did not know whether or not that bluff was actually stable. They determined it was stable enough to reopen the park, but that's not to say that another big storm without, restabilizing the bluff toe would knock it out and destabilize it or cause significant damage to the park itself. So total cost to us would be between $30,450 and $40,600. Again, it would be charged to us next fiscal year. There would be other parties assessed as well, including about 20 residential parcels and the Allegan Road Commission. So that kind of takes down some of the costs for the residents who are being assessed. And I did have, Dana Bird did review all of this. We toured the site together. And I also had the resolution sent to Township Attorney Ron Bolche, who reviewed them, and he kind of gave his thumbs up.
I have a question.
Mhm.
If the Gudith drain, well, I wonder how these drains are named, but that's not for you. I'll just ask somebody else that sometime. If the Gudith drain were to fail, what would the ramifications be? It sounds like the Lakeshore number 2 has already failed and that's being redirected. What happened? What could happen?
That's a good question. So they may, there might be a possibility of redirecting it to another drain farther south. I don't know if that's possible. And I forget the term, but the Guth drain is a specific kind of drain. It's actually not supposed to be doing what it's doing now. It more so collects groundwater to prevent what they call bluff weeping. So the groundwater just pouring out of the side of the bluff. So this collects groundwater and prevents it from exiting the bluff actually through the soil and directs it down. If that drain failed, you would just see a lot more runoff from the road. And you would also see groundwater that is now being directed through a pipe, weeping out the side of the bluff, so contributing to further destabilization.
This would not come at all out of the parks
No,
money at all, yeah,
no,
okay.
not at all.
And we're certain, or there is certainty that it would not exceed the $40,600.
They're pretty confident that it's gonna fall into that range.
Okay.
Yeah. They know exactly what the work involved
Okay.
will include. I was very impressed with their kind of explanation of the work that they would be doing and kind of the additional support system that would be on the seawall that they're going to install. They're going to excavate down about 8 feet and install the boulders down there, so the water's not just rushing under the boulders and get it like taking out the sand from underneath. So they have a pretty good plan in place. They were also kind of critical of some of the other seawalls that were put in, that they have an eye to, what a quality job is and shortcuts that can be made, and they're not looking to do any kind of shortcuts.
Okay.
I know there was a supervisor named Judith many years ago. So we have, I should know the exact number, but we have, I don't know, between 8 and 12 drains in the township.
Okay.
And the properties within the drain field of each one are assessed on the winter tax bill every year. For example, like, I think you're in it, I'm in it, the golf drain. So named because it goes through the golf course. Some of them make sense and some are hard. But, so my question fiscally is, if, let's say it's $40,000, will the tax assessment that the people pay lower that number in terms of our obligation, or is that separate?
No, that's what we are contributing, and they'll be contributing.
All right, so the assessment on the parcels is on top of this.
Wait, let me see if I can answer your question. So we'll be assessed for 15 to 20% of the project.
Okay,
There's another percentage that the Allegan Road Commission is responsible for. I don't
Right.
know what that percentage is, but it might have to do with the frontage of the road.
Yeah.
And then the remainder of that will be divided amongst about 20 parcels. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay,
And I know, and in that case, the drain office calculates all that. And uploads it to us. It's not something like with all the other villages that I actually put on the bill. It's downloaded from the drain office. And probably, do you think now, in this case, it would not happen till next tax year?
not, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They said that we were not going to see anything until next fiscal year.
Okay, drains are complicated.
Yeah. And so my only question would be if that does go on, the percentage that goes on the tax roll, is that divided up throughout years or? is
Yes,
it-
yeah.
oh, Okay,
I have that.
Typically, it's as much, I don't know, I think some are over 10 years, they're all different. And I don't
okay.
We'll find that out when, at the next step. And then in some cases, like when they did start the Gulf drain,
Mhm.
our total assessment was $300 or less. And it's like, well,
Oh,
you can pay it
okay.
off.
Mhm.
Just write a check that year. But other people pay a lot more than that, so. But
Okay,
it's all, they determine it and we just charge it and collect it.
sure.
How does the work get paid for then if it's not paid for upfront
I don't know. They must have, I mean, they must have the funds to do it.
at the drain?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it might be a bond issuance. I'm not sure.
Okay,
That's
how
But
they
but they're
invest in the
responsible
bond
for it. Okay,
They're responsible
Okay.
for it. Yeah, we wouldn't see any time. We would get billed at a later time.
all right.
Okay. But ours isn't, oh, I mean, we pay it all, our share at once, right? We don't get to divide that up over
Oh,
10
right.
years. is
We
that
could
correct?
request to, but it
Well,
probably
I'm
would
just
cost us
wondering.
more.
Right,
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
just a question,
it was a good question.
right? Any other drain discussion? No, okay, well then I would entertain one of two motions.
I'll move to adopt resolution 2022-15, a resolution to authorize the expensing of funds for the maintenance and repair of the Buda drain.
Motion by Marcy, is there support?
I'll support that.
Support by Israel's. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call. Let's see. Marcy,
Yes.
Israel's.
Yes,
Bigford, yes, Helmrich,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0. And would anyone like to make a motion to adopt second resolution?
I'll move to adopt resolution 2022-16, a resolution to authorize the expensing of funds for the maintenance and repair of the Lakeshore number 2 drain.
Motion by Aldrich, is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Helmrich. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Aldrich,
Yes.
Helmrich,
Yes,
Marcy,
Yes.
Bigford, yes, Israel's.
yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yes.
Mhm.
Remote. Interesting, although you did make it sound interesting.
It was
The
very
week-
interesting.
The weaving of the, I mean, I'm imagining you walking through this and being like, wow, this is important work to do.
We could, I mean, we could see the bluff weeping,
Right.
like, it was, it was very interesting. But it's, yeah, when you're up there close, it was scary.
It is.
no, it's great you went to see it. I mean,
Yes.
You'd seen drone back, this all happened with all the high levels and the
Mhm.
erosion of 2 or 3 years ago. And
Mhm.
it takes years to fix things.
Mhm.
It does.
And it's,
Yeah, they want to move fast, they want to get it done,
Right.
in the fall,
Right.
and so I think they'll be very appreciative of the board and passing these resolutions for them.
Great. Great, there is no old business, so that brings us to reports. John, treasurer's report.
well, thank you. So 2 months into the new fiscal year, general fund bank balance as of September 1st was at $2.56 million. pretty much flat to August first. General fund revenue is 6% behind budget, and spending is 7% under budget, so that's a good balance. No department level expense overages to concern an amendment with. So tax year 2022, today was the summer tax property deadline. Thank you, Deputy Marcy, for all you're doing. We're still playing catch up. So when I wrote this last week, the return payment rate was already over 70%. And I checked today and now we're about 85%. So that's about typical from other years. In your consent agenda, we approved 2 summer disbursements, number 3 and 4. One was for 291,000, one was for 305,000. There will be 2 more made before the next board meeting, which I'll report you on. And so they will be substantially higher due to the increased return rate. In fact, I ran that report today and the next ones are in the millions. On the investment front, this is pretty exciting. September 1st, all of our accounts, we had a total of $3 million invested. And 350,000 of that is ARPA, but still, that's really good. I do my detailed quarterly report at the October meeting. I'm looking at Abby because we've been meeting and talking to our advisors. We've agreed that, it's time to, rates are going up, returns look better. We want to put a little more of this money to work out of that 2.5 million that's just sitting in the general fund. And I'm just going to be honest, because I know we met this week, probably won't happen till the end of the month with the tax stuff, and I'm away next week, but you'll hear more about our new investments next month. Also next month, it's audit time. We confirmed the dates that they'll be here on site and they pushed it back. Maybe that's good. So they'll be here on November 1, 2, and 3. The first time you've been exposed to them, although you guys are auditor very. And it mostly when they're here, most of the stuff goes, they need from Lori, and then often they're at checking on things on my end. I just want to briefly share, because I checked with this in the Michigan Townships Association Treasurer's Guide. There is language that township officials are supposed to see a summary of financial activities at scheduled board meetings. And I know a lot of treasurers do a lot more detail than me. I try to keep it high end. They do say that reports are generally produced monthly or quarterly. I just wanted to share that, but that is a requirement, and best practices are that cash activity by fund is reported. I don't always break it down that much. I could. Investment report is quarterly. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll do the planning commission.
Yep.
This is a
Short
quick
one.
one.
Oh my goodness.
We met August 22nd, no public comment. Well, this was sad. Chair Israel's presented her resignation. So Vice Chair Eiley chaired the meeting. There was only one agenda item. It was public hearing on an amendment to the special use that had been approved relative to Jar's marijuana retailer, which is kind of across from your house on Blue Star. It was strictly a parking issue. The applicant presented the reasons they want. Well, they're saying their sales are way higher than they expected. They need more parking spaces. Commission members, we asked about stormwater drainage and tree replacement and lighting, because some of that would go against the original agreement. Vote was held to postpone a decision because they still hadn't heard more specifics from their engineer. That meeting lasted an hour. That was a record for planning commission. And we're meeting at the end of this month. And remind me, Daniel, I know there's
The 26th?
Yeah, but what's the main issue, just to share?
Oh, there's two.
It's the brewery.
There's the brewery, and then there's a rezoning of a property from R1 to C1 and a SAU for a camping site.
Right, that's the Airstream one, so that's gonna be longer than an hour, but there's some exciting things on the agenda.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me.
No problem.
I knew all that.
Thank you.
I think
Jen.
you're on.
Yes. Go ahead.
I'll try to make it brief.
Or
Usually like the for the best thing I think on there is that we have a new hire for our administrative support position, Morgan Aaron. Yeah, she has a very, I think, very impressive background, BA in English from Western. She's worked for a newspaper for many, many years, a non-for-profit in Holland. We're thrilled to have her. She's been an incredible help in the, what is it, 2 weeks? Those are 2.5 weeks that she's been here. She learns very quickly. So we're super happy to have her, and it's a huge help, and thank you. So, and this is the first time she's running the meeting.
I know, it's great.
And she
What
has-
newspaper
she has
did you work
wonderful
for?
proficiency.
I work for the Journal Era in Berrien Springs.
Oh, okay.
It's a very tiny weekly paper. It has about 1,800 subscriptions.
Okay, sounds like good work.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
It's a little bit bigger. It's about 32 pages.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we're getting it small, it's small.
Yeah, but it's very small, I will say.
Wow.
Big paper, small outreach.
I have to apologize to Morgan. I was remiss. I forgot to alert her what tax deadline week is like in terms of traffic. She has met,
That's why the box was in front of her.
yes, and she has met some of the most colorful characters.
I heard my daughter was in.
I'm not gonna name names, but there are some of them. And I think she was kind of shocked by a few of them, but the way she handles it, if they see her first, she's really, it's been, I'm sure it's been interesting.
Oh, it's been fun.
She hasn't run away screaming
Yeah.
yet, but I should have warned her. Well, I wasn't sure, because, we, for a while, they weren't coming in, they were trained because of COVID. And I think now so many of them just, wow, it's something
They
to
wanted
do
to get out.
today.
And my daughter did comment
She did.
how, well, I mean, you're, how much she liked you and what a nice welcome she had from you, and she had a lot of nice things to say, so you're doing a good job.
Yeah, there were quite a few comments about your positive energy, and yeah, people were happy.
They said, well, I like coming in here. Everybody's so nice. They said, it's a little messy, but sure it's nice.
Well, and so many this week on their way out, like, so to thank everybody.
Oh,
Thank you for letting.
Now, we've had one or two just run. But overcome. That's gonna happen.
yeah.
It's nice to hear.
Really nice.
Normally when there's one upset person, it's followed by someone overly grateful.
Right.
Yeah.
That's been the trend.
Yes.
Wow.
Good.
Awesome.
Oh, Morgan, thank you. We're just like getting to have you and have heard such amazing things in such a short time, so.
I'm glad to be here. Everyone's so nice.
We're all nice.
Yeah.
Not all the people.
Everybody's.
Continue, yeah.
The construction on the water main extension down 66th Street is well underway, so that's super exciting. So that's one of the first things that I got thrown with when I first started with
Right.
just the bond issue. And then we kind of hit a roadblock, and they said that they wouldn't get material in until November, maybe even December. And that all kind of changed overnight. They were able to get the material in, started right away. I don't know if they resumed. They took 2.5 week break. Part of it was because of the holiday weekend. There's some road closures associated with that, and they just didn't want to mess with all of the additional traffic. And then there was delays getting in the fire hydrants. But those are coming in, so it should wrap up in the next few weeks, and that's a done project, and we can start issuing certificate of occupancy for homes that are completed on that road. So that's a big thing. I think it's, for you, it's even a longer process. So that's finally coming to a close, the water extension on 66th Street. So I'll have updates for you at the end of the week. Really good news from the county, and Dean mentioned it. The county commissioners weren't supposed to vote on it until September, but I guess they got excited and voted on it in August, but we were one of 4 municipalities in Allegan County, including a city, that was awarded county ARPA funds to fund a water infrastructure project. And we received $350,000 to support a water main replacement project on Riverside Drive that would also loop it via Dugout Road to 66th Street. So it's kind of an interesting segue. We extended the water on 66th, which now gives the opportunity to loop that water system, and we're getting this additional contribution. So I will be working with Dana Bird and the attorneys and figuring out next steps for that. So stay tuned.
Very excited.
Did you write that proposal or to them? Did you write that grant? ask?
Yeah, Dana and I wrote it together. So that
Thank
was,
you. I mean, your writings is fabulous, but I think that probably helped a ton. But
It
thank you
did.
for that.
thank you. Yeah, no, Dean was particularly impressed with our application, and he did comment that there were some other communities that just he didn't think understood. And Dana really kind of elevated it too and said, I'm gonna approach this like a grant. And so we worked on it together, and they were very impressed, and really the thing that pushed us over was the fact that you all approved entering into the design phase. Because if you had not done that, they would not have considered it a shovel-ready project. So they were very impressed that we took the initiative to take it to the next level, approve the design phase, and that's what pushed us over. So,
Nice. That's
It's
great.
very impressive.
yes,
It's really nice for us.
Well
Mhm.
done. A lot of money.
it's a lot of money.
Nice for the residents.
Yes, it's nice for the residents. Road Commission got word that they are going to get the roundabout at Old Allegan and Blue Star funded via grants. So we'll be working with them over the next few months. They're not in the design phase yet, but I've let Craig Atwood know that we want to be involved.
Mhm.
So I'll bring in Lene, I'll bring in Dana, I'll bring in Brenda. So we can have talks to make sure that, considerations for pedestrian safety and just pedestrian and cyclist friendliness are taken into consideration in the design. So they're estimating construction not starting until 2024, so there's some time.
So
Okay,
then
we've got a
you
lot
think-
going on.
Got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Do we, have you heard from Craig at all? Are they looking at other localities in the county for roundabouts, or will we be like the first example?
My understanding was they chose us specifically because they thought that we would be, out of all the possible communities, they thought we would be the most open-minded to.
They were right about that.
And so it's my understanding that this is like the roundabout. There's not multiple roundabouts all over the county.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow,
Well, and
we've been vocal.
we've been a squeaky wheel about the
Yeah.
safety
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Many
Yes.
A little bit.
So with something like this, will they do any outreach to the public, or,
That's a good question.
information? They don't need to do a hearing, right? They can do whatever they like.
They may, they did one for the Lakeshore Drive workshop, but that was a requirement of the grant, and it may be a requirement of this grant
That's
that they do public outreach, so. May very well be the case. I'll
May not
definitely
be
bring
a
it
bad
up.
idea. I think
I know.
people will really want to know.
It'll be interesting.
Mhm.
It will be interesting. Building renovation is moving along well. Here it says we've been meeting once a week. We're meeting 3 times this week.
Wow.
So we're definitely in it. We hope to reach 100% completion of the final drawings by September 30th. So
Wow.
I think that we'll make that. We have a 90% review tomorrow. And then we are going to look at furniture. We're going to the Hayworth showroom on Friday. So a lot of progress there. And they're estimating the advertisement for bids going out October 7th. And then the current schedule shows construction starting on January 2nd.
Wow.
So it is moving along.
Rolling, yeah.
They're also working on a public engagement piece for us. So I have yet to see that, but we should be getting that soon, and then the renovation committee will be reviewing that. But I was supposed to get it Monday, but I think there was a lot to it. I think they overpromised that which is fine.
Mhm.
But they were pretty confident they could get us something good. So when they get that, the committee will be reviewing. And then website design continues to move ahead. I have a meeting tomorrow with Insight. They're showing me a second design for the homepage. So I got them a bunch of requested changes. So hopefully, I'm excited to see the next rendition, but We're definitely into the design phase. We've submitted a bunch of photos. We submitted our drone footage of the river. So it's exciting. So we'll see what they come up with tomorrow. Parks and Recreation, Township did receive from MDOT a verbal commitment for the TAP grant for the Blue Star Bike Trail, which is very exciting. We should expect a written commitment any day now. Actually, I was expecting it earlier this week, so yeah, it could come tomorrow, it could come Monday, but that's coming. And they're still anticipating that we'll get the funds 2025 because we do have some conditions that we have to meet. But it could, if we satisfy those conditions, the money could come as early as 2024. And then Parks Commission has been working very hard on their Parks and Trails millage because we realize there's a lot that we can do to get the word out about our millage. And the line is kind of like, you can say that please support our millage, but we can't say vote one way or the other. So we've been working on a lot of communication pieces. We have a page up on the website. I just posted a letter from Parks Commission. It's kind of explaining why they're seeking the millage. That will go out in an e-blast. That will also appear in the commercial record. So that's moving along nicely. They're taking it very seriously, which is good to see. And yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm around it.
And we got 2 donations today. Well, not we, the campaign did.
Yeah, the separate committee that is not associated with the
They have
township.
their own bank
Yeah.
account, but people are coming here with checks, which.
Huh.
Just to know, we should make sure that piece goes to the Howland Sentinel too, because
Oh, yeah,
a
we
lot
do.
of people would
Yeah.
here read that paper.
It's a good point. So, yep, that's all happening with that. Waste management, we had our fall cleanup day. That was a big success. We had 4 dumpsters reserved. We used all 4. And a whole trailer worth of scrap metal went to Padnos to be reused.
Wow.
So that was good. We are actively organizing a community event for October 4th at the media center at the high school. We're calling it a single collection community conversation. I have a meeting.
Catchy.
Holler doesn't
Literate.
work so well, so we're going single collection.
Yes, I like that.
And then, yeah, community conversation, we have, we're securing a lineup of panelists that can speak to various issues related to waste management and recycling. We'll also have an activity table, where people can interact and also give public input. And I am meeting with, the ODC and Dan Brosma, the Sustainability Director of the City of Holland, on Friday. And so we'll be discussing the panelists. And then I've also kind of brought Morgan into it because I'm gonna kind of look to her to kind of tie up some loose ends while I am away. So Lene will be working with Morgan on some of that. We have a poster done. We have a schedule for when that's gonna go to the newspaper, when it's gonna go out in e-blast, social media. So I'm excited about that. I think that'll be interesting. And then I'll have a lot of great feedback to bring to you all in thinking about whether or not we want to pursue a single collection ordinance. That's kind of the highlights.
Great.
Thanks a lot, thank you.
Exhausting.
All good news though.
All right, is there anybody on, open board report? Start with you, Stacy.
I don't know, well, I guess I don't know, I was happy to see the applicants come today. Everybody does such a wonderful job, and I think we're just rocking and rolling, and everything's going well. That's all I got.
It is impressive when you review these to
Mhm.
see how much time the particular people who volunteered, how much they volunteer out in the community, right? And the other activities they're engaged in. That's very impressive.
I agree with both. No, but I would like to say too, I did go to my first clerks meeting today, Allegheny County Clerk meeting. And this wonderful group of people and met people that I knew, re-met them again. So that was interesting. I learned a lot. We did hear that someone from the AP press will be at our election to watch over it at the end of the night. So I was a little nervous when I heard that, but Lori said, "Don't, we won't worry." And I am doing the clerk's training next week, Tuesday in Traverse City, so I'll be driving through one day, and right now it's 1 day training. I understand you did 2 days, so.
You don't have to drive that far.
Well, I.
Nice place to go, though.
Yeah.
It's
You
a
want
place to go.
company?
We're telling me about this earlier. Is this the credentialed poll watcher?
No, but apparently people from the press can come under a different type of title, so I guess I'll find out a little more. I said I would ask her. It is in
Brought
there.
that book out and I was like, I need to know.
Yeah,
So,
what they can do, where they can
Okay,
stand,
so it's
so,
probably in here, because sometimes like poll watchers versus,
can versus something.
right, the
There's
credentialed ones can do,
certain things. and
right,
people
not
can't.
the credentialed.
Right.
That's- might be-
There is a differentiation between the two, but they both have to come in with ID and specific information and be located in a certain spot. And really can't do anything else. They can't touch anything. They can't participate, but they can get a readout at the end of the night. And so it gives them our voting information, unofficial. So, that made me nervous, but I don't know.
I mean, because I know you were concerned we had it this time.
Right?
We had
That-
two.
We had it before. I've actually been one.
Yeah.
In 2010, it was me for the one side and Richard Beebe for the other side, and you just sit there.
It's
So fun.
like, these people knew so very little, they just wanted to learn and, you know, be part of the process, and that's welcome, so.
The only issue
hopefully
is
this-
do we have room for them? There could be more this year because so much is being wound up. Some of the.
I was
amendment-
wondering if we have a limit on how many.
I don't think we do, and we think they do in the maybe, or there's a limit, I think there's 2,
Okay.
so,
Okay. And then the only other thing is the Board of Canvassers issue a report. And so there was a lot of discussion about that report because it hasn't been approved yet. And they keep sending it out with some additions or corrections. So they were saying, look, we have to get our reports done within 8 days. They should too. So that was a recommendation to Bob. And I mean, there were a couple things that we missed at the election. And Lori was like, oh, I can't believe, and I said, we didn't do anything that would change the election at all. There were a couple signatures that weren't there. And I said, really, all this is something to make us better. And so we talked about our own checklist, internal checklist, developing that. So I think we'll do that. There's other. I'm really just learning from her.
no, we're doing great, she's the best, so.
She is the.
And I read the initial report from the Board of Canvassers, and the nature of the Board of Canvassers is to be so picky. I mean, you better have all your i's dotted and t's crossed, and that's it. And they're not, and they will point out everything, and sometimes they're wrong, because they don't
That's
have
why
elections.
issuing.
So that's a little frustrating for clerks, and we were certainly by no means, I mean, nearly everybody got written up for something. Some people, it was numerous things. So it's very normal to have some, you know, suggestions or corrections in that Board of Canvassers report. And when I read it, I felt like we did a great job, all things considered.
I felt that way too when I read it, and.
It's hard when you're like, we tried so hard, can you say nice things, you know?
They don't say
I know.
anything
No.
nice.
They're not gonna tell anyone they're perfect.
No.
No,
They're not.
they'll just be like, clean election, good job.
Yeah.
So, and we all know, because I think most of us here have worked elections, we all have, right?
I haven't
Stacy
yet.
hasn't, but, it's so hard,
It's
so.
Brenda and I are doing the opposite.
That's right.
Oh,
Because hopefully John and Daniel.
Yeah.
and Abby are
got
gonna-
Tom John on board.
Thank you for taking care of
Yeah.
John. Having you.
Well, I really like learning from her, so it's really good. And it makes me appreciate what she does. more. She just knows. all.
And everybody likes her. So
Everybody
likes her. John, do you have anything for open board report?
I guess just to welcome Becky again.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you.
to the meeting. I think you had a really commendable first meeting, and I've seen how hard you're taking the training. Which doesn't surprise me.
Great.
And I know we've been heaping praise on Morgan, but I wanted to point out, I hope you all are on the e-blast list and Facebook Township, because she has stepped that up tremendously. Not only the frequency and staying on top of it, but she's quite a design.
Oh.
Right, she is
Check
doing
it
stuff
out.
with my tax deadline, like, whoa, I wouldn't know how to do that.
Oh.
We always said we need a really good young person, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, yes, we did.
And she loves doing it, so that's exciting. It's a bonus,
Yes.
I think. For our communication.
Yes.
Oh,
Our
and
new
just,
folders.
yeah, thank you. And I won't do an email now. I'm on vacation next week. I think you are too.
Yeah, I will be, I'll be here on Monday.
All right, I won't, but I'm only gone a week.
So Morgan's running the office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Morgan and Cindy. They're gonna have to start.
I think Lauren's on a couple days too.
Lori's also too, she come back Tuesday.
There's Cindy Osmond here every day,
Yeah, yep.
which I can't tell you how
I
it
know.
changes.
Yeah.
It's great. Our,
Well, she gets called away for training.
the service we're giving to the community,
Yeah.
Oh, she helped me.
because it used to be buildings would drop in or people would drop in with questions and like, fill in the blank, Al, Eric, well, they're only here 2.5 days a week. Then you come back, and she's here. Yay.
And
I think she's a bit overwhelmed in our activity. I kept telling her, we have a lot more going on here than the little city of Saugatuck, and we don't use MTS to do permitting, so, but she's getting, I think she likes the pace of being busy.
I think so, and
So,
she is
Well, she
very
can't
good about
quit.
saying, I can help you with that, you know, so.
Yeah. That's
So
nice.
people are being helped when
Yeah.
they come
Right,
in
okay.
tomorrow, and I appreciate that too.
Mhm.
And I have to say kudos to Morgan for helping with some specific things this week too. that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, were challenging, and I thought that you did a really nice job. Actually, I really.
It's a nice vibe.
It is.
Well, line up more positive comment about more. And before we go talking about, you know,
That's why.
you'll never want it, she's never gonna leave this room.
I know. This job.
Former Supervisor Osmond and shared with me that she had trained you on something that she had trained someone else on, and she just said it took a small fraction of time for you to get it and run with it, and this other person, you know, that's fine, but it took this other person a great deal of time, and she's just like, she's so bright and just so, yeah, like teachable and competent and confident. She's-
All right.
Yeah, okay, okay, okay,
Yeah, and she's funny.
yeah,
She is fun.
That's debatable.
okay, wow, we're under 2 hours. That's amazing. So, I would like to adjourn this regular meeting of the Township Board on Wednesday, September 14 at 7:58 PM.
Awesome.
Hey, great job.
Thanks for a good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Did a lot too.
Thank you.
Thank
Felt
you.
fun and informal.
Oh,
A little easier.